Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 113 of the KeenGamer podcast. I'm your host this week, Jessica Orr, and there's lots to discuss in the world of video games this week. Joining me once more is Noah Rosenthal. Welcome, Noah.
Thanks, Jessica.
It's always great to have you talk about all the stuff in video games, including the biggest news stories like the Isle of Bigsnax coming, the creator of Oddworld calling Soulstorm's PS deal devastating, and Niantic's newest AR title being an original IP, not based off a license. After we talk about that, we're going to go on to some games that we always seem to come back to. We're going to list some old classics, new gems, modern gems. But before all that, like we always like to do, we're going to talk about what we've been playing. And there's been no major new releases, so me and Noah have no major new releases to play. So we've been going back to some old favorites. And Noah, do you want to start off and say what you've been playing first?
Sure. So I've been playing, believe it or not, Pokemon Shield. So the reason for it is because I came up with this whole list in an Excel spreadsheet of Pokemon that I don't have, just final evolutions. Because when I go back and play, I try to decide what do I want to catch so that I can eventually put it in Pokemon Home with my big collection. Yeah, so there's a few, especially ones that don't evolve or are just like hard to train for some reason that I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and catch these and not train them as part of a playthrough. Like, so I have them, but I
Yeah.
don't have to go through the big struggle of training them. Yeah, so I've been playing Pokemon Shield to catch a lot of those Pokemon. Yeah, I caught a Cryogonal the other day. Yeah, so I was like, all right, crossing that one off the list. Yeah, I'm still trying for Ditto. Things where you want like the hidden ability are the hardest. I haven't really planned how I'm going to approach that yet.
Do you start a new file when you're doing this, or do you just continue on from what you've been doing?
I've just been continuing. I actually have Pokemon Sword as well, so whenever I want to play it again, I'll just start that one. But with Sword and Shield, like it going back and doing that again, like honestly isn't enticing. Like the main reasons you go back are for some wild area event. Like it's really not a game that's known for its story, for its narrative. So a lot of
Yeah.
gamers like me just don't really replay them.
Did you like what sort of was the introduction of those sort of wild areas as opposed to just wild Pokemon? Did you like the way they implemented that, or are you more of a fan of the classic Pokemon random encounter stuff?
I'm fine with the wild areas. The one thing that I would say is I don't like how it takes away from the regular routes because really you're always there looking for the Pokemon you want instead of on a route. And really the routes are what looks unique. It's what has biodiversity. So yeah, so I liked that they tried to add a bit more of that in Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor, but really they just kind of fell short of of that biodiversity that really you look for in Pokemon games.
Yeah, like I thought it was okay, but also the way they implemented it. I like doing Nuzlocks in Pokemon games, but I found it kind of hard with this one. You know where you trade and you get a random Pokemon, I think, from those whatever those pillars were. It was kind of hard to do a decent Nuzlocke with Shield. I don't know if there's something in the community they do better, like if they trade with someone, but I went back for a second playthrough and tried to do that, but it wasn't fun because I was getting the same starter Pokemon again and again.
Hmm. Yeah, and because you can have so many Pokemon and it's kind of easy, like it's easy to train them. Like really on my first playthrough, I went through and I caught every like something in every evolution line. I have every final evolution. So I'm like, well, now there's no point of me playing this again unless I'm gonna migrate like Pokemon from an old game because I have them all. But I looked at that and I said, you know what? I'm just gonna go catch them all so I can play with all of them.
Yeah. So where would you rate Sword and Shield then in your favorite? Probably maybe not your favorite then.
Yeah, that one's really not my favorite. It has its advantages, like what I'm using it for, being able
Yeah.
to catch a lot of Pokemon. and it's not hard. Like I know it used to be like every Pokemon could be in any game, but it wasn't always easy to do. A lot of times it required migrating from another game or going through this lengthy catch process. But in Sword and Shield, usually you can find it somewhere in the wild if you want it.
Yeah. What about the DLC? Did you like it? You mentioned it a little bit there.
To me, like I played it. It was okay, but it's so like talking about the DLC, like the issues with it are so blatant there. Like that's the example I go to of like they're clearly just trying, like they clearly just withheld these Pokemon from the base game with the intention of selling them back to you.
Yeah, that was my issue with it as well. I didn't buy it because of that.
Right. And it feels like really the Sinnoh remakes are just an extension of that. Like they just kept Sinnoh Pokemon out of Sword and Shield so that you'd have to get this other game. So yeah, I just don't like these practices. Like I like seeing developers get paid, but I feel like we're seeing them in this scenario getting overpaid.
Yeah,
Like yeah, like
especially when you have the constant dual releases of Pokemon as well, and you have people that get both sometimes, and then that's why I liked Arceus was just one. I thought they're going to go in the direction of just one, but no. Sword and Shield, you have Sword, Shield, and the DLC. That's a lot of money.
and like how much of that money do the people that really deserve the credit actually see? I imagine that not a lot. It's all just milking us for money.
Yeah. Anything else about Pokemon Sword and Shield before we move on?
uh, not that I could think of.
Or do you have another Pokemon game plan lined up for this home stuff you're doing?
I've been thinking about Generation 5. Like I was a kid when that came out, and like that I was in that mode of just hating everything for some reason. So me and all the kids I knew just didn't give those games a fair chance. But thinking about them in retrospect, they're actually really good. Like the map, at least in the first one, is boring. Like that circle, like really this is what you drew. But really, those were really good games. Like a lot of Pokemon. I'd say the best antagonists that Pokemon's ever had. Like a lot of people have this nostalgia bias for Team Rocket, but like as a critic, I have to say now Team Plasma is instantly the best antagonist that Pokemon's ever had.
You think you're going to go to them next then, if you're going to continue this Pokemon?
Probably. Like I'm also watching the animes just because I need a show to watch, and right now I made it to Gen 5, which I've never seen before. I stopped seeing it regularly after Generation 4, so actually seeing Pokemon that I've never seen before is actually really cool.
Yeah, see, I have the same reaction because, like I've said to you, I just go in and out of Pokemon, and I'm like, oh, who the hell's this?
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. So that was Pokemon Sword and Shield, and a little bit of Pokemon anime as well. What I've been playing is we were talking about this last week. No, it was Kingdom Hearts 4 got announced,
Yeah.
and I was just really lukewarm on it. I was like, well, I haven't played Kingdom Hearts since the second one, and I do have the third one here, but I never opened it. It's still sealed in its package because I didn't know there was all these spin-off games. And I got the third and then looked it up and was like, oh, for God's sake, I want to play all these games before I play Kingdom Hearts 3. So, and also it was the year that Resident Evil 2 remake came out, and that is all I played that year, basically. So I haven't been in the Kingdom Hearts in a really long time, and I wasn't planning on going back and playing Kingdom Hearts, but I listened to somebody talking about it on a podcast. They trapped me, and their excitement made me remember how much I liked Kingdom Hearts. So I booted up my PS4 so I could play this in my room just before I go to bed. And I ordered the 1.5, 2.5 bundle remix, whatever that strange name was. And I started playing Kingdom Hearts, and I'm about 12 or 13 hours into it, and I'm really loving it. But man, what a strange game, Like today, if it was to come out, you're like, yeah, we're combining Final Fantasy with Disney. And not only that, we're getting a bunch of really good voice talent in, like Brian Blessed, who played Clayton in Tarzan's back. Haley Joel Osment does Sora. Hayden Panettiere is Kyrie. David Boreanaz is Squall. I think Mark was talking about last week how guy from NSYNC was Sephiroth. Like it's very Lance Bass, that's his name. Just loads of random people, and what's he called? James Woods came back for
James Woods, wow.
yeah for Hades, and it's just crazy to think of it now, like getting that voice cast for this JRPG, basically this weird JRPG, and getting the license for all these Disney worlds. So that's cool, and I'm getting such like a nostalgia rush going back and hearing all the cheesy dialogue and stuff. But I forgot just how tough the boss fights are. Like I now understand why it took me so long to complete this game when I was younger. You don't get like an enemy health bar at the beginning. You have to get the ability to, it's called scan, which is just for you to see the health bar. Which was like, am I even close to defeating this boss when I was doing it at the beginning? Thankfully, I've got it now. And then back then, I didn't really use guides. There wasn't really a lot of guides. What it was like game facts or whatever.
Oh
Didn't
yeah.
even didn't even cross my mind back then to do that. But now I got stuck on like the Cerberus fight in the Hercules world, and I just googled it, and I got sent back the game facts,
Oh.
which was a blast from the past. But it's also got these like sort of PS2 JRPG trappings where the menus are just all over the place. There's like 3 menus for your magic, your ability, the tactics, your items, and they're not really like labeled how you think they should be labeled. So trying to get my brain around that has been a little bit tough. Also they're like quest marking. Well, there is no quest marking system. They like tell you to do something, and if you forget, you just forgot. No one's gonna remind you. And every time I got stuck this time around, I remember getting stuck like when I was a kid, like 10 years old. And it's just because you need to talk to a character like one more time. Like an Elden Ring. You need to exhaust that dialogue with the NPC, otherwise you're not continuing. So it is very much a PS2 game, like of its time. But it's still really fun. Like I'm having a really fun time. And this version lets you skip cutscenes, which was so annoying when I was younger, because like I said, the boss fights are really hard in the beginning at least. And you had to watch that cutscene every time. I'm getting like flashbacks of doing that when I'm playing it this time round. But I'm very much enjoying it, and I've got the collection. And like we said, there's no huge game releases out now. I want to go back to a couple that I missed, but right now I'm pretty happy working through that list that they've got in that collection and finally completing 2 and playing the spin-off games. Finally getting the 3, which I haven't opened yet. So yeah, a really weird game, but actually pretty cool. And if it does get confusing later on, it's not that confusing this time around. I'm playing with Donald and Goofy and all these weird Disney worlds. Were you ever a Kingdom Hearts fan?
I wasn't.
Oh, you've never played it at all?
No.
Okay. It got me when I was younger because I love Final Fantasy and I love Disney. I remember getting this for my birthday, not even aware it existed, and like, oh my god, who plucked this out of my brain? Which is weird that I never followed it afterwards. But yeah, that's Kingdom Hearts. I got it pretty cheap as well on disc because I got kind of in the mood to play it and went on the PS4 store, and it was like £40 or something. I was like, no way. Not even nostalgia can make me do that. So, but I got it for like £14 on disc online. So that was pretty good. I'm glad I held off. Glad I had some self-control for once. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts. So that was the sort of, well, yours was a more modern game than mine. Went back to some sort of old games as the new releases are quieting down. And with the news, it's also not being quite as, like last week we got all those remake and remaster announcements. It's been kind of quieter this week, but one of the bigger announcements was Bigsnax, the Isle of Bigsnax release date. It is coming, I don't have the date, 28th of April.
Oh. So for
Yes.
me, that's the same day as the NFL draft. So I've got to do both things.
Oh yeah, that's quite the double feature right there. NFL draft and Bigsnax.
Yeah.
Yeah, April 28th, the Isle of Bigsnax is coming to PlayStation, but Bigsnax is now coming out to Switch, Steam, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and that includes Game Pass. Game Pass on the console, PC, and on the cloud, day one. Which is awesome because it was already on PlayStation Plus, so I'd say quite a lot of people have played that on PlayStation. Now it's being added there. it not only it's a free update as well, which I missed during the video announcement for some reason. It's totally free DLC. It's about, I think it's 3 to 4 hours, they said. You get new Bigsnax, or what are they called? Snacks. You get new features, and they've added like a kind of Pokemon system, like a shiny. Only in this, they get a hat. So,
Are they all different hats or the same hat?
I don't know. I haven't seen the hats actually. I hope they're different on each
Yeah.
Bigsnax. What are the new creatures? Oh, one's called Cell Masala instead of Tikka Masala.
It's like tikka masala.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
spag hider, which sounds disgusting, an 8-legged mass of pasta. Yeah, and then you also, there's additional features going to be added. You get to mail things to people on the island, and which lets you earn gifts and customize your houses. So kind of a little bit of Animal Crossing going on there. But yeah, have you played Bugsnax, Noah? And well, this comes out at the same day as stuff for you, but will you be planning on playing it?
Yeah, I haven't personally. I've seen it played. I'd love to give it a try. Yeah, been kind of in the mood for a simpler game.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's simple. It's fun, but there's some convoluted puzzles of trying to catch some of the Bugsnax sometimes. But with a game like this, if you ever do get stuck, you could just Google a guide for it. I haven't played it, but I watched somebody do an entire playthrough of it, and it's another weird game, but it's really cool. You're replacing the villagers with snacks basically, so they've got like sandwich arms and like a strawberry eye. It's really, really weird, really weird story, but it ends up being charming in the end, and I'm interested to see where they take the DLC because it's a whole new island as well. And I know Mark O'Callaghan is really looking forward to this. He loves Bugsnax, so no doubt he'll be uttering his thoughts on that next week. So do you think you'll be playing when it comes out, or are you going to be more into the NFL?
Maybe before the draft. The draft should be a nighttime event.
Yeah, and you can play this anytime after as well.
Right.
But yeah, I'm pretty excited. Like I said, I watched somebody play it on PlayStation. I could have played it. I just haven't got around to it yet. I think I definitely will now. It's on Game Pass. It's on the cloud. I've been wanting to just bit up games on my phone before I go to bed. And the cloud's got a pretty decent streaming service, so looking forward to that. And next news story. This one's a little bit more not news, but the creator of Oddworld, Lauren Lanning, was on an Xbox podcast called Xbox Expansion Pass. And their quote is they've said that the PlayStation Plus game for them was a little devastating for the game itself because they only expected to sell 50,000 to 100,000 units. And due to them having to get delayed because of COVID, the pandemic, they weren't used to working from home and not being able to share the work with each other. And it got delayed originally as well. And that's when PlayStation went to them, or they went to PlayStation. They didn't really disclose that. And that made them be able to finish the game. But the money they got from that projection of 50,000 to 100,000, Lauren Lanning is saying was devastating because on PlayStation Plus, it was downloaded 4 million times, which is quite a lot more than he projected. But I think the thing people are picking up on this was, I don't know about you, Noah, but if the game is free on PlayStation Plus, I just download it and sometimes I don't even play it, which is the exact scenario which happened to me with Oddworld Soulstorm. I saw it. Obviously, I get it for free. I'm on PlayStation Plus. Or sorry, not free, part of the subscription. And I downloaded it, haven't played it. I would not have played that or downloaded that game or bought that game if it had not been on the subscription service. And also, one other thing I find really interesting about this is, as of now, the last statistics we got, PlayStation Plus actually has 48 million subscribers. So only 4 million people downloaded Soulstorm, which I thought was pretty low if it's just there in your library and you've got it. But then you have a bunch of people who only have PlayStations to play Call of Duty Online and they need PS Plus for that. What's your take on this? Do you think it was still a good deal, or do you think as many people would have downloaded it outside of PlayStation Plus?
Yeah, so I'm the go off of what this person said. I think I'm the trust that if they're frustrated, they have a reason to be. So he or she is probably looking at figures and is saying, like this hurt us, and that's really part of like what this new era of streaming, with the services, Game Pass, and now this PlayStation, PS Plus, like it's called, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
so that's part of like what concerned me going into this new era. Isn't Daniel working on like a series of articles kind of about acquisition wars right now?
Yes, I think he is. There is an
Yeah, I wonder
acquisition war one
if
going
he'll
on.
touch upon this in those. So I think the big part of I think these two things kind of go together. Like developers are going to be bought out for money because the way to make money now is to be owned by Microsoft, to be owned by Sony, like to be owned directly by the hardware provider. So it,
You actually bring up that point. It's the exact point that Lauren made in the interview. When
right,
he went off this, they were talking about Game Pass afterwards, and he put his suspicions out that he thinks this is why Microsoft are buying all these studios so
yeah.
that they can put it on Game Pass day one. So yeah, the creator of Oddworld is taking that stance as well.
Yeah, so I think people on the inside probably see it kind of see it with pros and cons. Like the executives that are on the Sony Microsoft end probably say that this is better than what they'd have without us. But yeah, but at the same time, like 5-10 years ago, like when everything was much more independent than it is now, like they'd see a lot of money. So yeah, I guess there's still some adjusting to do in the new era. Stadia failed, so yeah, so
Yeah.
we're missing one of the players now, and Nintendo kind of does their own thing. I kind of think they're always going to give us games that are really just designed to play Nintendo based games that don't really have the capacity to handle games like Starfield.
Yeah, man, that would be something.
Yeah, and they do well with what they do. So yeah, so I think they're going to remain separate, and we are going to see Sony and Microsoft keep emerging as the things that you have to be a part of to succeed.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting way it's going as well, because I
Yeah,
agree. It kind of seems like for an indie to succeed, it either has to get good word of mouth on Steam, Switch, or be a part of a subscription service. Because that's the way I play most indies, if I'm
right.
honest. If it's part of a subscription service, there's a couple that I've had on my radar, like Chinatown Detective Agency and Tunic, but they both released day one on Game Pass, so I didn't buy them. I would have bought them beforehand, but how many people are playing them now because of the subscription service is the other thing. I thought this would already be in place, but it doesn't sound like it. Maybe it is, and he just didn't go over it in the interview. There may be some sort of bonus system, like you've paid them what sounds like a lump sum to get your game day one on PlayStation Plus or Xbox Game Pass. But what if it performs like incredibly well past anybody's expectations? Like, and it drove PlayStation Plus sales maybe. I think there should be some sort of like bonus system in place for that. It would encourage developers to do that again, to do a subscription service thing again, or just help them out whenever they clearly did a good job. The other thing of this though is it Oddworld Soulstorm didn't do particularly well with critics, and it was filled with a bunch of bugs. So I actually think that many people downloading it maybe had a negative effect on sales that way. Because you're not going to be like, oh yeah, you should buy this game when it comes out on Xbox because it's so great. It's got like a 66 average on Metacritic, primarily because of a bunch of bugs. But a lot of people did download it, so I think maybe there's some sort of middle ground they could do here. But he also said, I want to stress this, that he wasn't blaming anyone. He wasn't blaming Sony.
Yeah.
He wasn't blaming the company for taking that deal. He was like, it was just a set of circumstances that they couldn't have predicted, really. He didn't think there'd be that many PS5s out there as well, because this was the PS5 version of Oddworld, but you can still add that to your library, even if you don't have a PS5. So maybe he wasn't anticipating that. So I just think at the end it comes down it was a pretty crappy thing that happened, but it could happen again. And I'd love to see some sort of system where they could get paid a bonus if they got 4 million downloads. Anything else on that, Noah?
Yeah, so that's very true. Now, one thing that also did occur to me, I touched on it a bit with Google Stadia. So I also think that part of what's going on here is the new era of streaming is a way that Microsoft and Sony are cutting Apple out of potentially joining the industry. There have been talks about like new competitors for a while, and Google made an attempt. They tried with Stadia. So yeah, so I think a lot of these exclusive deals are a major avenue to preventing other competitors, like the big one would be Apple, from joining the industry. It's actually interesting that one time I suggested that my dream would be for Apple to buy Nintendo, than to make Nintendo the hardware leader in addition to doing Nintendo games. So now for a company like Apple to join, that'd really be what needed to happen. They'd have to purchase Nintendo.
Yeah, because by all accounts, it's very, very, very tough to get off the ground. I mean, look at Google Field, and they're
Yeah,
massive. Amazon are teetering on the edge of breaking in.
right.
Yeah, but it seems like they're not really grasping how much work it is to do. And like you said, no, I think that's the way they come in. Just you can't really do it the Microsoft route anymore. That was
Mhm.
kind of a rarity. Now you'd have to acquire Nintendo. I think
Yeah.
somebody doing the hardware for Nintendo is a really good idea because that's like the one thing they could do with improving.
Yeah, like I was playing some Wii games with my friend just yesterday. Then talking to him about about like all this era stuff, and yeah, and like one of the things I pointed out to him was like, just feel a Wii remote and touch this Wii compared to this Switch. Like it feels so cheap.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If only
The Switch
the
is
ult. No, go ahead.
yeah. So the Switch is better. Like holding it, like it doesn't feel cheap. It's at least made from good materials. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like I love Nintendo's innovation. Like I know
right.
the Wii maybe wasn't the greatest gaming console in the world, but like look how many it sold and some actually pretty good third-party games that came out of it, and especially the Switch.
Yeah.
What an incredible concept. Like I love it so much.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, that was the Oddworld Soulstorm stuff. Our
Mhm.
last news story is Niantic's new AR game, but it's not attached to a license. Like they had Ingress to start this. Their new game is called Peridot, and it's a social Tamagotchi style game where you are raising these little creatures. They're all entirely unique, so I think you get the same type of creature. Like this is a unicorn type, this is a dragon type, or whatever names they come up with it. But it's totally randomly generated what they look like. Um, you primarily raise them from like a baby, and then they said indeed a teenager into an adult, which to me, I had to do some guides on this game called Adopt Me in Roblox a while back. This is exactly what it sounded like. Like you adopted a pet and you had to put it from baby to teenage to adulthood, and then they had shiny versions and all that. Only it was neon. So it seems to me they're trying to tap into maybe like the kid market who are really into Adopt Me and Pokemon and all that type of stuff. Um, it sounds pretty interesting to me because Pokemon Go is the only one I've really stuck with. I played the Harry Potter one. Just seemed like a poor imitation of Pokemon Go. I hated the greenhouse stuff. It was really tough to try and do anything in that game and have fun, which is not great. And now it's closed down, so it mustn't be doing very well for them in sales. And then the Pikmin Bloom, which again I tried, but it was kind of like a simplified version of Pokemon Go. It was cute, but I had no motivation to do anything with it. This sounds pretty cool. You raise these creatures, you earn XP, you unleash them into the wild. You also have a breeding mechanic in it. So you get a cross between a dragon and a unicorn, and you've got your unique creature. Which is what I was telling them before the show. I thought that was a bit odd that their new IP has a breeding mechanic in it before Pokemon Go, which people have been asking since the very start. And there's been rumors they've been adding it since the very start.
Hmm.
What do you think of Peridot, Noah? Did you ever play any of Niantic's previous AR games?
Yeah, I got into Pokemon Go when it first came out. Then the world started playing Pokemon. I really enjoyed the jokes, all the memes, and it was fun at first, but it to me I lost interest in it pretty quick. Like it like to actually be successful, you have to work so hard. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a lot of. Do you remember the Pidgey XP grinding technique?
I don't.
You just had the mass evolved Pidgeys because they were the most common ones around. That was what you were doing your day to day in Pokemon Go back when it started. Did you ever go back to it then?
Uh, not no, not really. I remember I still played it when I first started college, and on one of the shuttle buses, like a lot of people would take it out because sometimes it would be moving just slow enough to count as walking, so you try to
Oh,
hatch your eggs that way.
smart. What do you think of Peridot then? Do you think you'll be picking it up, or maybe even just for a little while to try it out?
Did if I see people playing it, it like in my town, I might try it, but it's a way to make friends. That like but interacting with other people sometimes is unpleasant. Yeah, and sometimes it's
Preach.
challenging. Yeah, especially for me at times. But
Yeah, so you like the social aspects of the Niantic type games then more than the actual concept, I guess.
yeah, I mean that I like that they try to get people outside.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know if I've ever told this story before, but the most weight I've ever lost in my life was playing Pokemon Go. Not when I was actively going to the gym and trying to lose weight, when I was totally obsessed with Pokemon Go. So they certainly tick that box for being active. I wonder as well with Peridot if it's gonna have any, not like a battling system, but like a long range system like Pokemon Go has now for where you can do battles and raids remotely because of the pandemic forced them to do that. I wonder if Peridot's going to have anything similar because they tried to roll that back in Pokemon Go, and then people got very annoyed, so they conceded and left it in. Not as good, but it's still there. Um, and they also think that this it doesn't take like ages. You don't have to grind for candy. It's XP you use to evolve your Pokemon, and they said it'll take 1 to 3 days for a casual player to fully grow their I think they name them dots for short, paradots or dots. Other interesting thing I thought about this article was previously Niantic have said no, we're not doing NFTs. We're definitely not doing NFTs. But the way this is 100% unique, um, the the paradots you get, they were asked, "Are you interested in doing NFTs?" And they didn't rule it out. They basically said, "We're not." Here's the quote: "It's a really interesting idea, and it's something we're obviously looking at. But right now, we're focused on testing and refining the core gameplay experience so that's a fun and accidental coincidence." I don't believe it's accidental. That sounds totally up the NFT street, and for me, it would completely that would be the one thing that would put me off this game. If they're like, "Hey, buy your little Peridot as an NFT," I'd be like, "No, thank you." Um, so it's a bit weird that they've done a 180 from, "No, we're not doing NFTs," to, "Yeah, we're actually looking into it." But there's not much more with Peridot. Do you have any more thoughts with it, Noah?
um, yeah, I wouldn't like NFTs either.
It would seem weird as well in like a game that's clearly aimed at younger people.
Yeah,
Yeah, and just another way for them to get monetization on it that
right.
is not awesome for the environment. But that will do it for news. And now we're going to move on to the main topic of the show, which is basically games that we always seem to come back to. So old favorites that we play a lot or modern games. Spoilers, I didn't include any live service games here myself, but it can include a live service game. Like I easily could have put Fortnite here. I play it every week, but I thought I'd shout out some single player ones, but it could be anything like that. Just anything you've put a ton of hours into or always go back to. Do you want to shout out the first one? A game that you always seem to go back to, Noah?
Yeah, sure. So let me start by saying if you guys have seen me on these podcasts before, you might know that there are there are a certain 2 series of games that I tend to talk about a whole lot. So I decided for this one, we're not going to talk about those. We're going to
Oh.
yeah, we're going to go through a podcast without me mentioning these 2 series of games, which I do love and do, as you know, play over and over again. But we're not
Oh,
going
you're
to
not
talk
even going to
about.
mention their name here?
I accidentally said Starfield earlier, and I was like, no.
Ah.
So, yeah, that was just using it to make that as an example to one of our points.
I won't count it.
Yeah. So my first is I kind of have this thing where I return to GameCube era platformers and action adventure games that I like. So I actually wrote 3 down here that I kind of go back to and do a playthrough on sometimes. So there's Scooby Doo Unmasked, which was an
Okay.
old Scooby Doo game. Which, I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can do a whole playthrough in a day.
Can you
Maybe
describe it to me?
maybe a little
I've
less.
I've never heard of this game. Can you
Yeah.
describe what the
So
gameplay and all is like?
yeah, it was a fun little mystery game, like it's a platformer, and then you have to go through these levels, can collect clues to eventually bring back to Velma. And yeah, one of the cool things I remember is Adam West did the voice of one of the characters.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, so it comes across like Scooby and the gang. What are you doing here? Like, yeah, my Adam West really needs work. He has this gasping thing about him, like, gee whiz, Robin. Like, yeah, like
Yeah,
I
he's very unique.
yeah, you have to talk like from like low, then go up is like it's the reverse of how I normally talk. So yeah. Yeah, so yeah, there's that one. I also play Shrek 2, the video game, but a lot was
Wow.
yeah, another platformer. That one I like because it is multiplayer. You can get a bunch of friends in there and just mess around.
Yeah. Just describe it a wee bit more too, because I never played it. I've of course heard of it, but never
Yeah,
played it.
so you have 4 characters, but it's not the same for every level. So there are some levels where you have red what's what's the damn what's that legend called? Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have her some levels. You have Puss in Boots some levels, and of course you have Shrek some levels, and yeah, like having that mix is really a big part of it. And every level is kind of different. Some are linear platformer levels, but some have these little mini games attached to them that are fun. So yeah,
Okay.
that's the thing I like to go back to. And the last one is the Avatar: The Last Airbender video game. That
Is this
was
the 360 one?
it feel like it should have been before that. I had it on the
Ah,
GameCube. It
maybe I'm
could have
thinking of
been.
something
Yeah,
else.
yeah. So that's not really a platformer. That's action adventure. It has that hub-based open world system where you have these sequential hubs that you beat, then you go to the next one, then the next one, and yeah, that was a really fun game. I go back to that one too.
I think I might be thinking of what did you say Avatar or Naruto?
Avatar.
I'm thinking of Naruto. Do you know the one on the 360 where it was, like, really easy to get 1,000 gamer score in?
I remember that. I didn't have it though. Yeah.
Well, back then, I was a little bit obsessed with gamer score. My brother worked in a video game rental place, so he rented it out, and my entire family got the 1,000
Yeah,
gamer score.
so that's I just called it GameCube era platformers action adventure. I do have more, but
Oh, that's cool. No,
I
that's a
just
cool
kind of
pick.
I just kind of included that together. So, but that's my third. But
So, could you go over them again? Just so the first one was
yeah, so Scooby Doo Unmasked, then Shrek 2, the video game, then Avatar: The Last Airbender, the video game. It,
awesome. Yeah. Any
yeah,
more to
that's
add about
the
then? So, how often do you go back to these ones?
maybe once a year. Yeah,
It's
like yeah,
pretty good.
once a year if I'm looking to just do a classic.
When's your Shrek 2 walkthrough going up on KeenGamer.com?
Yeah, yeah, I probably won't revisit those. Yes, yeah, if I want to stay current.
Yeah. Um, okay. That was number 3 then. That was
Yeah.
cool. He put in GameCube platform
Mhm.
games that he goes back to. For my third one, what order would I want to go in? I'll go over this one first because I've mentioned it on the show before, and it is, I guess, just the Mass Effect series. Um, it's not my favorite game BioWare's ever done. KOTOR is my favorite game. I used to revisit KOTOR about once a year, maybe even a couple of times a year. Kind of fell off it recently. Just there's been so many massive games. I did buy the Switch version and just didn't really play it all that much. Mass Effect's just so much easier to boot up again and start playing, especially with the Legendary Edition out. I do plan on playing the entire trilogy every time, but I always stop at near the end of 2 for some stupid reason. Um, but I just love 1 so much. I know a lot of people prefer 2, but 1 just feels like this huge, massive space opera exploration game. It's so cheesy. Like, I always forget, no matter how many times I replay it, just how cheesy the scenes are, especially the romance scenes. My god, they're cheesy. Um but it's just fun. I even like the combat of the old system. They kind of revamped it for the legendary system to make it a bit more like 2 and 3. But I don't like the auto cover. So I was even a fan of the combat back when it first released in 2007. I remember being sick from school that day when it came out, so that was fun to play it. Uh, I most recently went back to it in January when there was a kind of a dry spell of games again. Just after the Christmas period, played through 1 again, stopped on 2 again, but this time I plan on picking up 2 again because 2 really is a fantastic, like, game about your companions and about being Shepard, building up this crew for the Suicide Squad. It's another game that has an incredible voice cast. You've got, Seth Green, Trisha Helfer. Obviously, it's got Jennifer Hale and Mark Mayer as the male and femme Shebs. Keith David. I'm forgetting about a bunch of people as well. So many cool guest stars they have in Mass Effect. I actually would as well say I probably prefer the Dragon Age games, but Mass Effect is just so much easier to go back to and just pick up and play. That sort of action RPG that they've got going on with it. It's kind of this is BioWare, and it's just its great period where they were doing Mass Effect and Dragon Age, and Anthem was but a twinkle in their eye. um, but yeah, that's Mass Effect once again. I did not do a Noah and swear off games I'd mentioned before, but maybe that will be the last time I mention it. But it's definitely one I consistently go back to. Are you a Mass Effect fan? You ever played them?
I don't have them myself, but I do know people that play them. That's a game
You
that's recommended
you
to me
do
very
have them.
often.
You have Game Pass.
Well, this changes everything.
It does.
Yeah.
I look forward to you playing all 3 by next week's podcast. Okay, do you wanna go on to the number 2 game your number 2 listed game of a game that you always go back to?
Yeah, so my number 2 is I go back to Mario games a lot. So for an RPG, I tend to replay the first Galaxy if I'm in the mood for it. I kind of stick to that one because that's the easiest one to just do a new playthrough on. Like a lot of the things in 64 and Sunshine are just really hard, so I'm often just not up for that. Yeah, I play Mario Party with my friends a whole lot. My favorites are 6 and 8, and I play Mario Kart with my friends a lot. My favorite is Double Dash, but a lot of people really like Mario Kart 8, now Double Dash.
Yeah, I'm with you. Double Dash is
Yeah,
my favorite. Yep. Good picks. I actually didn't even think of Mario Kart when I was thinking about this. It would
right.
definitely be a game for me that I always go back to as well. Like with Mario Party, it's just an awesome one to get out when there's just
Yeah,
at least one other person there with you, you know?
right.
Anything else about the Mario games? You said it was Mario Galaxy, Mario Kart, and Mario Party would be your go-tos?
Yeah, those are my go-tos. I'd say I'd have to defend 6 as the best overall Mario Party. That think they have the best mini games, best boards, and the orb system is good. I don't like the candies in Mario Party 8. It eliminates the strategy of placing it somewhere.
What one did that one come out on?
The Wii.
The Wii. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only started playing Mario Party on the Switch, so and I got immediately confused and annoyed whenever the CPU took over
Uh,
all of us. So it wasn't really for me, but I've probably not had the best experience with Mario Party. So that was my. Oh, do you have the Switch All Stars collection? Did you ever get it?
I don't have it. I may not actually get it because one of my friends has it. So if we ever want to play it, then he just has it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't an incredible release anyway, but it was a
yeah,
cool thing to get because I, excuse me, really like Sunshine. But I was
yeah.
saying to Mark and
Oh, All Stars. I thought you meant the Mario Party that it collection.
oh
Yeah,
right, yeah,
I have All Stars.
you
Yeah,
do,
that I
yeah.
have. Yeah,
It is called All Stars, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. It's a 3D All Stars. Yeah,
Yes, that
yeah,
was it. Yeah.
I have that. Yeah.
Were you impressed by it? Because I wasn't too impressed, but I was just excited to play Sunshine again, if I'm honest.
Well, I wouldn't say impressed. It is what it is. It's a remake with a slight. I wouldn't say the remaster aspect is really noticeable, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a chance for you to play those games again, and that I did complete it. I have hundoed every game once again.
Oh, well done. I didn't complete any of them. Once again. But yeah, that's cool. That's Mario games that Noah listed. Another game I mentioned that I always seem to go back to is my favorite Final Fantasy, but not necessarily the best. I'll admit that is Final Fantasy VIII. I played it when I was really young. It would have been one of the first games I think I ever played, at least ever completed. And I mean, for me, it's just like the most cinematic that Final Fantasy has ever been. Like, even going back to it now, the way it's directed is just really, it's really fast. It's really quick. It really gets you invested in the story. And especially when I was younger, I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? What's going on with this? It had some really cool missions. I always remember the train mission fondly of trying to put the inputs on the train. Some really cool battles, incredible music. It's so good. I can just sit there with the Switch on and listen to the music. I always listen to music on Spotify. One of the best soundtracks that Final Fantasy's ever had. It does have a confusing, to say the least, junction system where back in the day you had to sit there for hours and draw magic from creatures. And I did back in the day sit there and draw magic from creatures for hours. Remember going into that forest before you get Efrit. Oh my god, that was ages. But with the remasters, the current remasters, you can fast forward through all that. So you can I can't remember what the highest speed it goes to. You can just stick it on and then you're constantly drawing and it takes way less time. You can do a playthrough in about half the time, I'd say, if you were wanting to build up your power through this drawing system, which I know talking about this sounds like a bunch of Final Fantasy faff. It is, but it, like I said, I think it has one of the best stories. With Squall and Renoa and Scyther and just everything going on with it. That first disc is my favorite. When I was younger, when I couldn't get past a certain part, I just restart it and get past the first disc again because I loved it so much. And like I said, I really do think even from the Final Fantasy games that have came afterwards in the modern generations, I think this is the most cinematic it's ever been. The cutscenes are really cool, the music's really cool, and just the way it all lines up. It's kind of like a comfort game to me because I played it when I was younger and I'm still playing it. It's been what, 20 years later. Um, yeah, it's although I do love 9 and 10 as well. I I'd probably say they're better games, but I just love it. It's like a nostalgia thing for me, most likely. Are you a Final Fantasy fan? You ever played it? What do you think of it?
I've never played it, unfortunately.
You played any Final Fantasies?
Uh, and well, there is a fantasy that I play, but we're gonna not talk about this fantasy this time. But yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, Final Fantasy. I unfortunately have never picked up.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah. Uh, although I love it, I wouldn't recommend starting with it.
Uh,
10 actually holds up very well these days. I got a remaster on PlayStation. If anyone was to pick it off straight off, I'd probably go for 10. But the awesome thing is you can just pick it up any way you want. Because although it says Final Fantasy, there's always going to be another one.
yeah.
So that was my number two. Noah, do you want to tell us your number one pick for a game that you always find yourself going back to?
Sure. So my number one pick, I'm actually replaying right now. I got the itch to play it, and
Hmm.
I've talked about this before on the podcast, but not recently. The Tack series, the original three
Ah,
Tack and the
yeah.
Power of Juju
Yeah, I
game.
found out about this game through you.
Yeah. Have you tried it?
Oh, sorry, my internet's went all skew with.
Have you tried the Tack games?
Not yet, no, but I did look it up afterwards. Was it a platformer, an action platformer?
So yeah, the second two definitely are. The first one, it's kind of like they have it kind of set up like a hub based open world, but really the actual objectives, like it's designed to be like a platformer. And I think a big part of why they went to that in the next two games is they're like, really, we're trying to make a platformer here. So yeah, so I love the TAC games, and it's artistically my favorite, like one of my favorite worlds. Like I was trying to look up and find out like who drew these things, and I came up with a name for the first two. Till Ensman was some sort of art director. I'm not sure how much he actually did, but like
Yeah.
just taking in how everything's drawn, like all the characters, all the creatures, it has this beautiful uniformity to it, like an animal from that game, like if these artists were to draw another animal and put it on something, I'd immediately know it was them, like this is
Yeah.
attack animal, because they all have this goofiness to them that's yeah, that's so like it's so captivating yet and still goofy, like it's both brilliant and silly. Right. So yeah, I just love looking at those characters and the sound effects. Like the voices are great. It's like Tack is I think it's his name's Jason Marsden, who was a Nickelodeon voice actor. He did Chester on The Fairly Odd Parents. He's Tack in the
Okay.
original free Tack games.
Mhm.
That's pre when they tried to turn Tack into a show and really messed it up.
That's right, I
Yeah.
remember you said you didn't
Yeah,
like that.
and Locke is actually Patrick Warburton, the very famous voice actor. He started on Seinfeld, and now he's Joe on Family Guy. Well, he didn't
Ah,
start
okay.
on Seinfeld. He was in things before that, but that was his first kind of big role.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was Dave Putty.
So you said you're playing this right now then? The first one?
I'm playing the second one. So yeah, and they're all done a little bit differently, and that's part of what I love about them. Like they start with this kind of hub-based open world where Tack's not really going very far from where he lives, and the second one is a big adventure, like he's going in a linear line away from where he lives, going on a big long adventure, but very far from what he knows. Then the third one's kind of putting it all together and trying to represent his tribe. Yeah.
Did you like the third one, did you say? It
The,
went slightly different?
so the first three are my favorites. I love all of them, but as a critic, I'd have to say they get better as they go along.
Oh, okay.
I'd say the third is going to have to be the best. The second one, second best, and the first is probably the third best. But I love all these games. Then I've actually never played the ones that came out after the show, but they just don't seem the same. Like me looking at them, they're like if Jason Masden isn't Tack, it's not the same.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
you plan on stopping then when you get to the end of the ones you used to play?
Yeah.
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 No, sometimes that's best.
Right.
Well, that's a cool one. I'm glad that Tech got another mention again, and I
Right.
will play it eventually, I swear. Is it PS2?
Uh, yeah, that sounds about right. That my guess is because yeah, the original three are all GameCube. So in the
Ah,
PlayStation,
okay.
it should all be PS2.
Yeah. That's cool. Maybe with the PS Plus tiers, they'll add Tech.
Right. Like it's yeah, you were talking about Dream remakes last week. Like that'd be one of mine if they remade these TAC games for the Switch or something, or even just picked it up again and did new TAC games, but maintains the styles of the originals, like another TAC trilogy with like starting with the hub-based open world, then going to full platformer, then further in the third one. If they just did that again, that'd be so brilliant.
Yeah, platformers are kind of getting a little resurgence now at the moment as well, with
Yeah,
Ratchet and Clank and the Spyro remakes and the Crash remakes. Like it would be, and also remasters or remakes are really hot as always.
right.
So that'd be a cool one to do. And also, I think that would be like a perfect Switch game. Like you're talking about the art style and everything as
Yeah.
well. It doesn't seem like it would be too demanding.
Hmm.
So to finish this up, I'll go on to this is my number. Usually, I don't really order them because
Yeah.
I can't think, and I don't know what way I'd order them. But this would definitely be my number one. A game we always go back to. It's not an old one. It's actually relatively recent than some of the stuff I've been talking about, and I struggled to come down with one game in the series, but I did it, and it is Resident Evil 7. Um, Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 2, I have played so much. I've probably played Resident Evil 2, the remake, more than Resident Evil 7 because I actually got so obsessed with it. I was talking about it earlier on the show. I just didn't play anything else. All I did was watch people do speed runs. I even speed ran the game myself a little bit. There's my time is still there on speedrun.com, and it's not even my best one because I'm so goddamn lazy I didn't post my best one. I just got totally addicted to it with the loop of doing the on A I did again and again. Saying that, I've played that one 100% more than I have Resident Evil 7. I just love Resident Evil 7. I love the Southern Gothic feel of going back to that. It's a totally different feel than anything Resident Evil has done. Kind of doesn't feel like Resident Evil, the way the tone is, but everything kind of fits together like a classic Resident Evil game where you have that small house that's kind of acting like the mansion from the first one with Jack Baker chasing you, kind of like Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. You're kind of always on edge. Marguerite Baker is disgusting, but she's one of the best boss battles I think I've faced in a game, which is good because I kind of don't like the Jack Baker boss fights. I just think the whole tone of it and even the puzzles, they toned it down a little bit less than what the other puzzles have been, but it was so much better than what like I do like 5, but what 4 and 5 and 6 did, where it was kind of more of an action game than a horror puzzle game. This really felt like a Resident Evil game, and going back to it now, it still feels like a breath of fresh air. Village was cool, but it kind of did the thing that Resident Evil 4 did, where it kind of went a bit more actiony, except for the House Beneviento bit, which is freaking terrifying. They could release a DLC of that. Um, I still find Resident Evil 7 scary, even though I mentioned it. I think it was the first podcast I was ever on that I think I'm used to it. I think I know what's around the corner, but then obviously the AI is all different. And then there's Marjorie just in my face, like, screaming at her. So it's always surprising me. It does kind of have a bit of a flat third act, but that doesn't take away from the first two. And just what an incredible atmosphere that game has. Um, I'm going to play it again before the updates come out, and then I'm going to play it again when the updates come out just to see the difference. And I think that's what makes like a game that you always kind of want to go back to. Literally any excuse to play it. I'm like, oh, there's going to be an update. I'll play Resident Evil 7 again. Oh, the update's out. I'll play Resident Evil 7 again. I also want to shout out the original remake. It came out in the GameCube originally. So what? It's nearly 20 years ago, maybe a little less, and it still holds up. Like it's still like probably the Resident Evil experience if you want like a classic Resident Evil experience. It still looks incredible. It's out now for obviously not just the GameCube, it's like the PlayStation, I think it's like for the Switch as well. Yeah, it is. PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, you can play it anywhere there. But yeah, Resident Evil 7, still scary. I'm still constantly going back to it, and I can't wait to play it again, even now. Are you a fan of Resident Evil games? No, I don't think we've ever talked about Resident Evil with you on the show.
I'm not personally a fan. That's often recommended to me as well, though.
Oh yeah, you said you don't really play horror games all that much, right?
No.
Not this one. Then I don't recommend it in VR because it is terrifying.
Hmm.
And that is just about gonna wrap us up for this week's show. If you haven't already, please be sure to visit KeenGamer.com, where we have all the latest news, reviews, previews, opinion pieces on video games, TV shows, movies, and tech. Um, And if you haven't already, please rate us 5 stars on Spotify. It really helps us reach a wider audience. And as Mark O'Callaghan likes to say, we just want to talk to more people. We just want to tell everyone about TAC in Resident Evil 7, you know? So that's it for all of this on the week show. If you are interested in Doctor Who, a review I did for the Easter special, Legend of the Sea Devils, just went live. And I have a horror movie piece if you're interested in any horror movies coming out in April. Noah, what are you up to?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel, that's the Black Rose on YouTube. I do, yeah, we went an hour without talking about it. So yeah, I do a lot of Elder Scrolls and Fallout work. There's also a Starfield video and some Pokemon videos on there. So yeah, so there is actually a big thing that I want to mention. I'll drop it here first. So one of the things I was talking to my friend about the other day is he brought up a common Skyrim question. Like he knows like a lot of my work is fiction-based theory stuff. That's really what I like doing. So he asked me about a common question that people have long debated and thought about in Skyrim. So the question is, who are the the mother of Jarl Balgruuf's children? It's one of the most commonly debated questions and theories in Skyrim. So I'll tell you here first. Oh yes, I have a pretty good idea who the combination of people is that are the mothers of Jarl Balgruuf's children. So, and I made a deal with him. I said, when I hit 50 subscribers on YouTube, I'll do a video about that. So I will tell you what I think, and it. I feel like I'm pretty confident in my theories. This one I'm somewhat confident in. It's not my best work, but like I can come across as like a Skyrim conspiracy theorist sometimes, but like it what with me doing things like that, it's me reading the writers. Like it's why I really like murder mysteries too. And why I'm really good at solving them. I have this natural act for reading writers. So yeah, yeah, slight Game of Thrones spoiler. If you like Game of Thrones, don't listen. But I predicted that Bran would be king at the end in season 1. I just understand George R. R. Martin, so I called that.
If you
Yeah,
understand
so
him, when's the new book coming out?
I'm not sure he'll ever finish. I think
Yeah,
he's just trying to write so much. He's terrific. I love good old George.
he is
Yeah,
terrific.
so yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm like I know how Todd Howard, how Will Shen, like I kind of know these guys. So it's because of that I have a pretty good idea who they intends as the mother/mothers of Jarl Balgruuf's children. So the deal is I'll tell you when I hit 50 subscribers.
Well, everyone, you need to go subscribe to the Black Rose right now so we can figure that out because there's nobody I trust more with this information than Noah. So yeah, go subscribe to the Black Rose. Go check out KeenGamer.com. And until next week, this has been the KeenGamer Podcast.